Hey everybody, this is Mark Mosgrove again at Project Lulu. I'm here with Tim Andrews, our co-host, and we have a special guest today. It's Mike Reisch from Ohio, and he has written a book. And I'm going to pass it off to Tim and to proceed with our talk here today.
Oh, wait, that's me. I'm on?
Yes.
Well, hey, it's Mike Reisch, right?
Yes.
For some reason, Mark and I are both having some serious problems with pronunciation this morning, but it's Mike Reisch. And Mike, you are the author of the book, The Witch of the Valley. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So we wanted to have you on, especially this month with, people all the talk of witches and ghosts and goblins and things like that. But
Oh, yeah.
wanted to kind of have you on. And the book it is a fictional book based on stories that have been handed down through generations, actually right here in Valley City. Mike and I are both, are you a resident of Valley City or you?
No, I grew up in Valley City. I lived there for over 30 years.
Okay.
Then I moved to Brunswick. I live in Brunswick now.
Okay. I actually am a resident of Valley City now, so we have something in common there. But in the book, it is fiction based on stories that you heard, I think, from your grandfather and other people growing up. Is that correct? How did everything come about there?
Yes. A lot of weird things happened in Valley City when I was growing up. And my imagination went wild. And when I always wanted to write a book, and my mom was a big Stephen King fan. And so I kind of went that direction with the book. And there's a lot of historical facts that I turn into fiction. I embellish and turn things around. And but a lot of things in the book are true events.
Okay. And you call it Valley Center, so it's kind of got a direct line without using Valley City.
I'm also really impressed. This is the first time you've written a book, and usually that's not something we older folks do.
Right. Right.
So you always wanted to write a book, but your grandpa told you these stories. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your grandpa and what he told you, which made you then turn it into a book?
Okay. Originally, this is a true story. There was a woman named Martha Wise, and she poisoned her family. And her mother and aunt and uncle died. And other family members of her aunt and uncle, her cousins, got really sick. She poisoned the well. So in the book, I actually use the well and stuff like that, but it's a different character and a different name. But a lot of the events are true. And so I asked him about that, and he told me a little bit about it. And I asked other people, and it was just very interesting to me that this happened in Valley City. So that's why I turned that into my novel.
What time frame, what time period are we talking about when this event occurred?
Early 1800s. She was convicted in like 1823, I believe, or around that time, 1820 something. She was sent to prison.
Okay.
Is that where the whole premise, where the witch thing started? Did that stem from what she did, that heinous act, or did that just come from something else?
Yes. Actually, there was an old timer that talked about it, and he called her an old bitch. Nobody wanted. They let her out of prison after many years, and she came back here, and he said she had no place to go. Nobody wanted the old bitch, and she went back, and they took her back into prison, and she lived out her life. She lived out her life in prison. So, I instead of a bitch, she's a witch.
A little bit more of a simplified legal process back then, huh? All
Yeah.
right, we'll take her back. What the hell? We got room, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. It's really a strange story, and it was only like when I looked it up on the web, I found like a page and a half, 2-page article about it. So I took that and made a novel out of it.
Wow.
Wow.
That takes some creativity and imagination.
So it did, and at first it was tough. I really thought I could, and it just flowed, and it was just I just couldn't stop. It kept going and going, and my son is my editor, and through his critiques and direction and advice, I pushed through and ended up with a novel. I could have kept going too. There was more I wanted to put in, but then I wanted to make it short and sweet and finish things up. So that's what I did.
And I did notice that it is on Amazon.
Yes.
And do you want me to read the synopsis on Amazon? Would that be helpful for our viewers, or no? Are you okay with me read that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, hold on 1 second. The Witch of the Valley. In the early 1900s, an evil witch terrorizes the community of Valley Center, Ohio. Strange phenomenon continue to happen long after her demise. Later, 3 young boys hear all about the old witch from 2 of their grandfathers. They make up stories to scare the other kids. Everything bad that happens in the valley is attributed to the witch by the boys. 2 of the boys swear a blood brother oath to get even with the entity they call the witch, who they blame for killing one of their grandfathers. As they grow up, they figure out that the entity is an evil spirit. But how can you fight a spirit? When they grow up, they figure out a way.
Yes. And I messed up there. I said 1800s. That shows my age. We're in the 2000s. So it was 1900 when this happened in Valley City. It was 19 when the real story. Yeah.
Now, the story I hear, and the first story I heard when I moved into Valley City, as you can probably guess, is the witch's ball, right?
Yes.
I did go back then just because I was curious it's in the Myrtle Hill Cemetery, and it's a big monument, like a grave marker that is a ball, like a sphere. And rumor has it that it was cursed and there was a witch buried underneath of it, and that it never freezes and nothing ever can land on it and stay like a leaf or anything like that. But there are other stories associated with that cemetery, and I would love to hear maybe a little bit more about that and a little bit more about some of the other stories that are associated with it. I would go there myself, but I'm too scared, Mike.
Well, that was a big thing when you became a teenager and you could drive. You take your girlfriend there to scare her, and then she's gonna cuddle up to you, get close to you. But this didn't happen to me, but a friend of mine told me that she drove through there, and there were witnesses that corroborated this that were in the car with her. And she said a giant sheet came floating up out of the wooded area to the west side of the cemetery and floated right over the witch's ball and their car. So I took that in the story and made it a fog. I made this fog that appeared, and from the fog a wolf would appear in my book. But it all relates to this sheet.
That sheet didn't have eye holes in it, did it, Mike?
No, they didn't say that. They were scared to death, though.
I gotta be honest. I heard sheep, like bah, sheep.
That would have really been weird.
Not in Valley City, it wouldn't.
No, all the dead people in the cemetery are killing sheep.
Yeah, we're sleeping.
Well, that's the sign when you enter the city here. It says, "Welcome to Valley City, where the men are men and the sheep are nervous."
That's right. That's in the book somewhere too.
Right.
I put that in the book. Not just the cemetery. Well, when I was a kid, my grandfather was the caretaker of the cemetery, and they dug graves by hand. My dad and my two uncles, all three of his sons, worked there, and then they mowed the lawn. And my other two cousins we'd go up there together. They were older than me, but we'd run around and we'd try to climb on that witch's ball, and everything was a joke. People would say stuff that a witch was buried there, and we knew, there's nothing. No one's buried there. It's a family marker that
Right.
the family, there's graves around it that they all belong to that family. But it's black marble, so it absorbs heat from the sun.
Sure.
So at nighttime, it's still warm, and people, it's something coming up through the earth through there. There's a witch buried under it and all this stuff, but yeah, there's not. And then the school in Valley City that I went to, the Liverpool Elementary, that's in the book also. That was a scarier place to me. There was weird stuff in that school, and we'd play in the playground, and you got to be home at a certain time, so you'd run up to the cafeteria from the playground, and you'd look. It was scary. You were afraid because you heard stories from the older boys that a janitor died in the school, so there was. Everybody was scared of that. Even going to school there, you'd be thinking, is that janitor coming? Is he following me? His ghost? So you go up to the window and you'd have to shield your eyes because the sun would be glaring off the glass. And you were just scared to death that the janitor was going to be staring right at you when you looked to see what time it was. So, I never saw anything, but
I'll tell you what, Mike, and I'm going to tell. And this is you're our guest. This is your time, but I am going to tell a quick story because when I was first divorced, and I know what you're all thinking, how could any woman in their right mind let a prize like this get away? But
I think you gotta go.
Let's talk about strange and unusual. I mean, absolutely. But right after my divorce, I moved into an old house on Lawn Street. In Valley City.
Yeah.
Those were built like back in the late 1800s, and it had the sandstone, basement and everything. And there was a fruit cellar at the far end, and it had the centrifugal drains or whatever. There was no sump pumps or anything like that. The water just drained down in, and the old wood steps going down. And my kids were scared shitless going down those steps. And I remember one time the power went out in the house. When I first moved there, that place was so freaky and scary that I actually slept in the living room for the first 2 weeks that I was there. I wouldn't go upstairs, But when you started to go downstairs, there was like a landing, and then you went down the stairs, and there was a big old coal chute there, where they would put the coal in to heat the house and stuff, and you walk by that, and it was like looking into the bowels of hell. I mean, it was horrendous. And I remember when the power went out, guess where the fuse box, the breaker box was?
In the coal room.
No, but not in the coal room, but it was in the fruit cellar and so you had to walk all the way across the basement to get to the fruit cellar to switch to flick the breakers. They had put breakers in there. They weren't fuses, thank God. But I had to go across there. Honestly, I don't think I hit one step. I got down there. I hurried up and got back to that side, and I flipped those breakers. I don't think I hit one step on the way back up, maybe to the landing.
Oh yeah,
the hair on the back of my neck and I was standing straight up. It was my daughter was like, "I will never go in that basement, Dad. I'm scared to death of that place." But that's my little Valley City. But there are a lot of structures like that were built in the maybe some in the mid 1800s that have that same kind of thing going on with the basement. I know the diner down there has I've been down there in that basement. That's kind of a spooky
Oh yeah.
basement as well.
Well, you just reminded me of a story when I was a kid. I grew up on the house on the corner of Maple and School Street. And so Lawn Street's just right there. I could hit that with a stone. We had the same setup with the coal room, and the fuse box was in the last room of the basement, which we stored canned goods down there. So I had two sisters. I was the middle brother, the only son of three kids, and I had two sisters, and they would team up on me and get me in trouble. And we had chores to do. Well, one of the chores was I think it was had to take the trash out, and we had a burn barrel back then. If that was your chore, you got to choose what vegetable we had for supper. So you had to go down into the basement and get the vegetable, and you got to pick it out. So my younger sister had gotten me in trouble, and I used to go down there and hide and scare her when she had to go down to the basement. And I heard my mom say, we're watching TV in the living room, and she told her, go get your vegetable, pick out a vegetable. And I just kept staring at the TV and watching. And and she kept turning around looking at me. And I snuck. My mom went into the pantry in the kitchen. I snuck by her, and I snuck behind my sister. And it was it was later than this time of year, so it was dark earlier. And she started walking through the basement. I heard her pull the light cord in the middle room. So then I snuck down the stairs in the first room, and I watched around the corner, and there was a door. So she had to open the door to get into the last room. And when she did that, she looked back, and I'm hiding around the corner. And as soon as I could hear her feet shuffle, I ran. She's reaching for that light cord in that last room. I pulled the door shut on her, ran through, shut all the lights off, ran upstairs, and sat back down to TV. And she was screaming down there. Oh my God. And her and my other sister and my mom all said that house was haunted. But I never thought it was, but it was freaky down in that basement, I'll tell you. Especially the cold room. It was dark. It was scary.
So you actually had a room where they put the coal? I just had a big round, excuse me, I just had a big round area right in the wall where it was like a chute where they could go up with the shovel. But there was, boy, every time I walked by that thing, I got just the weirdest feeling.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was dark. And, there were still coal marks on the walls and stuff from the coal.
Oh, wow.
In that room.
So let me ask you, Mike, having written a book about a witch based loosely on true information, I guess we would call this kind of like a local folklore story, where a lot of this comes from rumors of janitors and that sort of thing. Do you think, gosh, what percentage of these ghost stories are this kind of like that local folklore that may not be true or embellished? What do you think about that?
I'd say over half are true. Over half, yes. Probably 80-90% are true.
Why do you think that?
Because from my people I heard stories from are very reliable and trustworthy. And I've seen some stuff myself. There's a story in the school where the two friends sneak into the school. And the cat is a true story. It's what happens to them. It happened to me, actually. And my friend was with me. He didn't actually see anything, but he saw how scared I was. Yeah. It was scary. That's the only thing that so that leads me to believe that these other people have really seen and have really. And besides that, there was another house that they actually tore it down. But I have that friend that was with me in the school. His sister and brother-in-law lived in this house. It was in Hardscrabble, and Hardscrabble is where it is in Liverpool Township, but it's at the corner of Grafton and 252. That's called Hardscrabble. So in the book, I lean into that I call it Salt Hollow, but they really did have a salt mine there, and it was in the book I make it that they were digging underground for the salt, but there was a pool that they would draw the water out of, and they'd boil the water, and then salt would be left. It was a salty brine spring. So anyhow, in Hardscrabble, they lived in this house when they first got married, and he told me his brother-in-law told me that there was a door that would not stay closed. He said he would push it and he could hear it latch. He even put a brick down at the bottom of that door, and they'd be watching TV late at night before they go to bed, and all of a sudden that door would open, and you could hear that brick slide across the floor. And then other people later on lived there, other friends of mine in the same house, and they said they would always see shadows moving, and it was always like something out of the corner of their eye. They'd see somebody there, and they both said there was a little girl that they would see, but there was others. There was more than one. So I use a lot of that stuff and they were very believable. And when we talked about it, they just turned like whitish. They were scared.
What kind of research did you do to find these people? I mean, you spoke with one, and then they referred another and another, or how did all that research go down for the book?
They were friends of mine.
Okay.
This all happened a long time ago. They were, I'm 64 right now. So when I wrote the book, I was 62, and you're talking about stuff when I was a teenager. and beyond, like they were my friend's sister and brother-in-law were 8 years older than us, so they were living in that house, and we were 15, younger than that even when they first got married. That's when that stuff happened. And then these other friends of mine, he's my age when he lived there, and that was 40 years ago when they lived there. And we were in the bar one day, and we're just sitting there talking, and my friend's asking them where they lived at, and they're telling them, this house. He goes, "Oh, my brother-in-law and sister lived there." And, yeah, and he mentioned that. He goes, "Hey, you got a door that won't stay closed?" And they both they just turned ash white. Oh my God. Yeah, there's a door that won't stay. And they said the same thing. That door won't stay shut. And they didn't put a brick by it, but my friend told him, his brother-in-law put a brick by it and it was still open. Then they talked about seeing things moving around all the time in the house.
Does the house still exist?
It was torn down.
How long? What time period are we talking then? When this was going about? Well, I mean, was this house built in the 1800s or?
Yeah, the house was old. Yes, around there, I'd say. In the 1800s, early 1900s, it was built. I was just going to say it was in the 1970s when the first couple lived there. And then it was in the 1980s when the other friends lived there.
And these are people that, friends of yours, they don't BS about stuff, or, I mean, if they joke around, they're joking around. They had no reason to make up these stories.
Correct. Yes. Not at all.
Well, the reason I asked if the house still existed, because Mark and I were thinking we could go in there in the middle of the night, pitch black, with a candle and a Ouija board, right, Mark?
Don't be.
Thank you.
I would not advise that at all.
Has one been, well, I'm sorry, has one been built in its place, like where the old house was, or is it just vacant land now?
No, there was two houses on the property,
Okay.
and there's a newer house. The newer house is still there, but the old house is gone.
Okay.
Well, I have to admit something. My dad's parents, their house had a funeral home. And as a kid, I didn't know it. And I didn't know it until I was probably a teenager. And it's probably a good thing because it was scared the crap out of me.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Because,
yeah.
you know, here we are playing like as little kids playing underneath the dining room table. And I'm thinking to myself now when I'm picturing the house in the room, that's like right where the casket was.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that house has since been torn down, but I never saw anything in that house. And you would think funeral homes would be haunted, but maybe not, because that was just a short stop. Where you passed on, I don't know.
Yeah.
What would you say, Mike? We don't want to keep you too long. Your time's valuable. I understand that. But what would you say is, out of everything you've heard, everything you personally experienced, is the strangest, maybe the scariest story that you've ever heard? Would it be the house with the door, or have you seen other things, or have you heard stories of strange phenomena or spirits that really stuck in your craw and made you kind of go, ugh, you know?
Well, the door with the brick
Yeah.
is probably the scariest one. But another thing, when you mentioned Lawn Street, a friend of mine lived there, rented the house. There was a garage in the back with an apartment above it, and then the front was the house, and that was divided in two. So
That's the house I lived in, by the way.
Okay. Well, the small side, not the 2-story side, the single-story side.
Yeah.
My friend lived there, and we were talking. We had many discussions, and he had just gotten married. So this was like 1978 or 9. It might right around there, 79 or 80. And we're talking, and he goes, out of the blue, you know, we're talking about God and afterlife and stuff like that. And he says, you know, there has to be a God. I don't care if you call him Buddha, if you call him God, if you call him Allah, if you call him Eckley Schwantz. And, you know, he's making a joke saying that, you know, and as soon as he said that, the door opened. The same way at the other place, it unlatched and opened.
Yeah.
And we just both looked, and the door just swings open nice and gently. And I looked at him, and I said, I think God's trying to tell you something. Wow.
You know what's strange is I lived on the 2-story side, and I never really saw, except for when I cooked up on my own mind, when I was going down the basement things. But I never really saw anything. Now, that 1-story addition, as I understand, was built in like the 1920s. So the side I was living on was like in the 1800s. That was built in the 1920s. And the neighbors that I had on the one side, on that side, the 1-story side, you told me several times they saw strange things over there. So whatever happened must have happened on that side of the home. But I guess, you know, maybe ghosts can't walk through walls, Mark. What do you think? I don't know. That it seemed to be isolated to that side of the house, even though my side, I was in that house before, or in that side before, and the side I lived in was much creepier. I mean, way creepier. But I really didn't see any of that kind of phenomena. But they reported many times they saw shadows and strange things happen with doors and things like that. So that must have been where that came from. That's kind of weird, isn't it? That we both have that association with that house.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Hey, Mike, you mentioned about the conversation with your friend and about God and along those lines. Where do ghosts fit in with God? Now, you don't have to share whether you believe in God or not believe in God. You don't have to, but I kind of struggle with the whole ghost thing. about God and ghosts and why people would be walking around on the earth. What do both of you think about that? Where does God fit into having souls on the planet walking around? If he does it all, what do you?
Well, my belief, this is what I believe, that the souls walking around are disembodied spirits of Nephilim, that the fallen angels mated somehow, whether it was artificial insemination, whatever they did, they tried to mess up the gene pool so Jesus wouldn't be born. They tried to, yes, and so they tried to stop God's plan of redemption, and so they were not of God. They were created by the fallen angels and Satan. So their spirits are demons that wander around, and they whisper evil thoughts to us, to mankind, to get us to join them in their fallen state. We are in a fallen state, is what I believe. That Adam and Eve caused the fall. So people that aren't saved are join these wandering spirits in being like ghosts. What people talk as ghosts.
Okay,
and if you're saved, your spirit goes to heaven to be with God, and if you're not, you are stuck here wandering the earth.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mark. Just kidding, Mike. I've never heard story. I was not expecting that answer, but that is extremely interesting. That was great. But
so when you see a ghost, like say a ghost walked up and it was of like a grandfather who's passed away, would you say that that's him, or would you say that that is a demon impersonating him, or some sort of a simulated combination?
A demon impersonating is what I believe, because they have been here a very long time, and they know the whole history. And if they're attached to your family, they know your whole family history.
So they can imitate. So that explains the little kids then too, right? Because you wouldn't think a little kid would be cursed or possessed or anything. That's really interesting.
Oh, I'm kind of speechless. I don't even know what to ask. Because you kind of threw me there with Nephilim, or I don't know how you pronounce them, but I do remember that in the Bible, that they came down and they mated with women. It's in early Genesis. It was before the flood story. Was it before the flood story?
Yes, that was the reason of the flood. So if you read the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch is mentioned in the Bible, but it's not part of inspired scripture. So a lot of it is in there. It's more detailed in the book of Enoch. There were watchers. They were supposed to guide humankind, and what they did was they let them down, and the knowledge they gave them, like to make war and weapons and fight with each other. Look what the government does. I have black friends, I have white friends, and all they push is that there's this big divide. We hate each other. Race. Every white person's racist and all this stuff, and it's just not true. There's good people and there's bad people, and there's more good people than there are bad people. And
I'm glad you think that, because I'm wavering on that assumption, especially after the Charlie Kirk assassination and how many people were happy about that. I am really, actually, I've been pretty depressed about it the last couple of weeks, because I'm like, really, is there that many bad people out there that they root for bad things and murder to happen?
Yeah, that was terrible. Yes.
But everything kind of fits in somehow, right? Everything's a piece of the puzzle. And just like the aliens thing, I mean, I'm of the belief that, there is a supreme being, but I know it's almost, can you tell me that nobody that has ever been subjected to Christianity and Jesus Christ and God, that all those people that never knew any different, like Buddhists and Christianity is not the oldest religion. So that kind of, so I mean, there's a supreme being, but if you look at theology, really, and this is not a religious channel, but if you look at theology, a lot of religions kind of they coincide. A lot of the stories and even some of the characters are identical. So, I think it's almost like, how good of a life have you led and how loyal and faithful have you been to the religion and ideologies that you follow? I think that maybe determines your fate. And who knows how that happened and what's a lot of people's explanation. I guess that's why they call it faith. Faith is believing in something that's unseen. But there was just God. Something, if you look at it, you could drive yourself crazy. Something was there at the very beginning. We don't know what, how. So a lot of people equate like aliens and things like that from other planets. Maybe that's where things started. So I don't know the answer, but I do think that things are related in some way, shape, or form.
I think the aliens are fallen angels, and they're interdimensional. They're actually interdimensional beings that can come in and out of our dimension. That's what I believe about them.
So you think the ghosts and the aliens are somehow intertwined in a way?
Yeah, they're connected. Yes, they look at the story of the demoniac in Gadarene, I believe it is. That when Jesus encountered him, he was in a cemetery, chained. They had him in chains. He would jump into the fire, and the demons called themselves Legion because there were so many of them. They asked to be put into the bodies of the swine.
Right.
So they want to be inside of a body. They want control, and you have to invite them in, I believe. And so if you don't want that, and you see like The Exorcist, that movie, that was a real story.
Mm-hmm.
That girl was possessed, and they want to have possession of a body and control it. But they are intertwined with the aliens.
Well,
which are fallen angels, in my opinion.
that's funny because the last recording we did, I asked, actually it was my daughter, I asked if you had 5 minutes to spend talking to an alien or a ghost, which would you pick? And you think they're the same, or they're of the same. They're in a family. You think, but on the practical level, would you rather a spaceship came down and you talked to the alien that came off the spaceship, or would you rather have a ghost show up in your house and talk to you for 5 minutes?
In my opinion,
Yeah.
boy, I think I'd rather talk to a ghost than
Really?
what I would think would be a fallen angel. They're very powerful and to me scary, more scary than a ghost.
What did you answer? Because I think you answered Tim on that question. Did you say a ghost?
Yeah, and I said it really depends on what ghost it was.
Yeah, that's true too.
The Holy Ghost. Yeah, I'd really like to talk to him, or my dad passed when I was young, or whatever. But plus a ghost isn't tangible. I don't think there's any people that have talked about being actually physically killed by a ghost that I can, and people recounting that. There may have been isolated suspicions or things like that, but aliens, on the other hand, I value my face, even though it's not much to look at. I still don't want it mauled. When I think of aliens, I think of the movie Aliens and that thing right in somebody's face and that thing coming out of its.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No thanks. No thanks there. Or like I was telling Mark when we first talked about this, I don't My luck, they'd be chubby chasers who just liked unattractive men. You know, my feet would be in stirrups, and before you know it, you all aren't going to believe this, but let me tell you a little story.
I'll never go on a canoe trip again.
That's it. It reminds me of the movie Independence Day, where the guy, I heard that they molested him, they abducted him, and did things to him sexually.
So, Mike, if a spaceship landed right now and they said you can come in for 5 minutes, it's not either or now. It's not ghosts or aliens, but the spaceship comes down and you're invited 5 minutes to come in, and then we'll say your goodbyes. Would you go in that spaceship or not?
I would, yes. As long as I could get back out.
Even though you think they're fallen angels. That's interesting.
Yes. I would be very interested in something like that, yes.
Well, you would want to be assured you're out in 5 minutes. What if they lie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't be taking me away. As long as I can get out of there, I would love to see how they move around.
Well, that actually happened to me once, and I haven't been able to get rid of this guy since. Follow me home every day of my life, you know. He's pointing the finger at me.
Well, this has been a great talk, and I feel like we could talk more. Maybe we can do this again sometime. What do you think?
I think so. I would enjoy that.
But before we go, Mike, plug your book. Give us the best description of the book, where people can find it through paperback, or I don't know if you have it on audio or anything like that. I don't know what the name is, but yeah,
I do not have an audio book at this time, and I don't have a hardcover. If there was more demand, I was going to do a hardcover. So it's available on Amazon, and it's called The Witch of the Valley, and by Michael E. Reisch. That's me. And it's a paperback or Kindle. You can get it on Kindle also.
Okay. Well, this video will be seen literally by nearly a dozen people. So expect things to.
Is that including us?
That's including us.
Yeah, we'll watch it 10 times each.
We highly encourage you to subscribe and be our 6th subscriber. We're just starting out
like 3 days ago.
Really out. This is one of our first things. We've been doing a political podcast, but this is our first shot. And Mark is obsessed with all things sci-fi, and I've had some things happen to me, and I thought this would be a fun thing to do. Keep it lighthearted and have fun with people, kind of like we did here today, and not judge or make fun of people. And I think it's gonna do very well. We're really Mark is really dedicated to putting time and effort and funding into this podcast in order to give it every chance to do extremely well. So you can look back on it one day and say, I was a guest when they just started out, and now they've literally got 30 to 40 subscribers. No, just kidding.
Well, I'd love to come back, and I'd love to come back sometime, and I'll try to remember some other stories.
Awesome.
Yes.
Because I've got a million of them, believe me.
We would love to have you back, and anyone else that you know that would like to be a guest. We're looking for a lot of good content, and you provided us with that, and you have a great personality, and we love having folks like you on. So,
well, thank you very much.
We appreciate you, Mike. Yeah, just hang out there, and Mark, go ahead. It's all yours, man. Kick it out.
All right, I'm gonna say thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you again. And
can I do this?
Is it?
Can I do that? Yeah.
I'm a Star Trek fan.
Can we do this at the end of every Woo Woo Project Woo Woo podcast?
Or we could do not-do like. All right, thanks, guys. Signing off.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Mike. Good meeting you, sir.
You too.